Good morning, everyone. It is uh, it is an honor to be uh, with you today and to be asked to speak. Um, I was unable to do prostrations this morning because I hurt my back. So everyone, I appreciate your tolerance, and uh, I will try to um, not get too fancy here today, uh, and just share my own experience as best I can. Um, First, I want to dedicate this talk to Lorna Myers, who passed away this week. Beloved member of our Sangha. um, Neil Myers is out in Cleveland, and he's in all of our hearts. Um, and this talk is dedicated to her. Um, so this morning, I want to talk about cranes and ducks. And before I do that, I want to just express my deep appreciation, love, and gratitude to Roshi and Shinko, Nyoze, Kashin, um, the residents who labor on, and those who have made, all those who've made such sacrifices to maintain Sonoma Mountain during this difficult time. I think, you know, Roshi has been my teacher for more than 20 years. I've been coming to the mountain all that time, and half of that time at least, I've traveled across 2 states in order to do that. And I miss being on the mountain very deeply. And so having this medium where we can come together is just it's a gift. And although, you know, those things I miss from the mountain, we all, hopefully most of us have had the opportunity to experience. I think also that oftentimes we don't realize what hard work it takes to maintain the Zen Center and the sacrifices it takes on everyone's part, especially in the face of all these challenges that we now have at a time when we're all dealing with the pandemic, a time of social upheaval, in a time of great suffering in the world. This practice and this teaching is vital. These talks are always difficult for me. Why, I'm not sure, but I guess it's because I feel a need to, in preparation, to search myself, kind of do a reevaluation of where I am. And that's not always a comfortable process. You know, it's not easy sometimes. That being said, what I'd like to do is just sort of share a little bit with you about my my background and how I came here. I first, when I first encountered this practice, and when I first came to Sonoma Mountain, quite honestly, I was clueless. Um, I had been practicing Vipassana meditation for about 3 years. And I think, I can't remember what year it was, to be honest, but more than 20. I came to a retreat to Sesshin, and it was Rohatsu. And I had never sat that intensely in my life. And I remember in Dokusan, the first time I went to Dokusan with Roshi, and he said, and I was in such pain. I said, well, what am I doing here? I mean, what am I doing here? And he said, well, you chose to come here. And so the thing about it was that at the time, no one really explained anything. No one tried to tell me much of anything. You know, yeah, people, you know, in physical terms, there was a lot of help, you know, with the physical challenge of sitting, um, dealing with your mind. There were suggestions on breath. But in all the years that I have practiced the Sonoma Mountain, and Roshi has been my teacher, I have never had anyone, including Roshi, tell me that they knew the truth. And from my background and experience, things just don't get a lot better than that. They simply put the practice in front of you and point you in a direction, and you decide. It is like, you know, the practice is the practice is the practice. And, so, you know, it is no question that, you know, Suzuki Roshi, I think, talked about teaching without teaching. And Roshi has done a lot of that with me. I've just been pointed in a direction and left to test it myself. And I still have times when this practice is very difficult. And oftentimes I question. And, you know, there's a natural tendency to, and maybe it's our culture, maybe it's a culture in the West. I don't know. I'm talking as if I really know something here. So, you know, I don't really know anything. But there's a normal human tendency, I think, to want things to be explained. You know, just explain it to me. You know, why do I do this? What is in this for me? You know, how does this help me? Am I becoming a better person? Am I becoming enlightened? What does this all mean anyway? You know, did the Buddha teach about life after death? Will I become transcendent? What's the goal? you know. And I've over these many years of practicing, I think I've come to understand that practice is not about answering those questions. Because there's only one real question. And that is, who are you? Who am I? And we all know the Bodhidharma story. And that the great sage, said, I don't know who stands before you. I don't know. So I have to sit. And to me, sit and face the mystery, you know. So I think I've come to a realization that when I do mundane tasks in my life, those things I think of often as mundane, that's my practice. I do the dishes, that's my practice. You know, when I help my wife, that's my practice. The small things that I'm not present for, being present for those is my practice. And I was talking to Roshi yesterday, and I mentioned that I hurt my back, and so was unable to do these prostrations. And I did this riding my bicycle. And I'm 71 years old, you know, and I want to treat my body like I'm 25. And he said, well, you know, the Tibetans call that an auspicious coincidence. He's saying there's something to be learned there. And believe me, I think he's right. So it's the other thing is that I've come to realize that as I get older, you know, I'm always surprised. Like my son just had his 45th birthday. And I learned just recently that I'm going to become a great grandfather. Which is wonderful and terrifying at the same time. So anyway, so go to the real subject of this, cranes and ducks. In 2006, 14 years ago, hard to believe, I was asked to serve as Shuso the first time. And the theme that I selected at that time was, and quite frankly, I almost didn't realize where it came from. I looked it up and found it, and I went, oh, and it was this: your continuous practice creates the circle of the way. And Roshi gave me a beautiful calligraphy of that after that was done, and that was a winter ongo, and it rained most of the time. The thing about it is, I had no idea what that theme meant. I didn't really understand where it came from. I didn't, you know, I just thought it was cool, you know. I thought it was good. So for this talk, I went back and tried to find the roots of that. And you find that concept in Dogen's, in the Shobogenzo, in the fascicle called Gyoji, which is, Gyoji is it's conduct and observance, which is also translates to practice. And so I'd like to just share a couple of quick quotes from Gyoji and also from Dogen. One is from the extensive record. And bear with me, I'll try to be short with these quotations. In Dogen's extensive record in volume 6 of the Dharma Hall Discourses, there's a short little talk, little tiny piece called The Continuous Practice of Cranes and Ducks. And cranes and ducks, of course, can be teachers and students. So the quote is this: 10 million did not see the twirling of the flower at Vulture Peak. The entrustment of the marrow by Bodhidharma at Mount Song is the single arm of the entire body. There are thousands of divisions and tens of thousands of continuities between cranes and ducks. They flatten 100,000 peaks and fill 100 gullies. Already they have diligently engaged the way like this, transcending the mundane and going beyond the sacred. Things dwell in their Dharma positions, and the forms of the world constantly abide. And in Gyoji, conduct and observance, and there's 2 parts to it. It's huge, so I'm only trying to take a little piece of it. There is this: through the conduct and observance of the Buddhas and the patriarchs, our own conduct and observance is realized, and our own great state of truth is realized. Through our conduct and observance, practice in the present moment, conduct and observance of the Buddhas is realized, and the Buddha's great state of truth is penetrated. It is due to our own conduct and observance that the virtue of this cycle exists. And for me, there's a lot in that. First of all, I love the idea that I am responsible. There's nothing outside of me that is responsible for this. And only I can practice it. And when I practice it, there's this deep interconnectedness with the lineage and the world. And I've heard this kind of thing said by teachers many times, but never felt it deeply. And as I've practiced over the years and gotten older, I think I now see that this integration is, for me, real. You know, I experience it. And later in the same fascicle, Dogen said, we should learn and practice that in pursuing the truth, we are as if meeting life and death. And that touched me deeply. That's what this is. It's you living your life, and your practice is your life. My practice is my life. It's all the parts of my life. And so, I'm talking, like I said a few minutes ago, I'm talking about this like I understand it. There's a real, you can look at this 100 different ways, but it resonates with me. And because of this, the I have learned that it's very important to be careful. It's very easy for me to miss very important things in life. And sometimes I think I can just be stumbling through, Roshi, Roshi talks about the idea that life and death here is that this life and death that Dogen is referring to, that this is an analogy for the duality that we experience in life. And that through our practice, those skandhas, those five, they begin to come together through practice. And I think the term he uses is bundled, that they're bundled. And that brings you to unity. And then there's a kind of a scattering, and you have an empty unity, I guess would be the word. So I mentioned that, so I mentioned the idea of being careful. And, Roshi in his talk, it's in No Beginning, No End, Intimate Study. Roshi said this, and I think this relates directly to what I've quoted in Gyoji. It is a big mistake to think that when we read writings on the lives of our ancestors, we're studying about someone besides ourselves. Because each phrase, letter, and even the space between the letters is actually pointing toward ourselves. This is the underlying meaning of what we call intimate study. We might say that intimacy itself is the heart of Zen. And that idea of intimacy has really resonated with me, especially since the COVID-19 has started. Karen and I, my wife of more than 50 years, have spent more time together than in our entire life, our entire marriage. And that intimacy has just unified or solidified, become deeper. And interestingly, it has brought me to a greater intimacy with my family, my children, my grandchildren. And in that sense, perhaps there is this lining, this part of that COVID is a gift to me. The other thing about it is a greater intimate understanding of suffering. I don't know about you, but I am feeling exhausted. I'm exhausted with the pandemic. I'm exhausted with the cruelty in the world. And the suffering. And it makes this practice that much more important to me. And I'm coming to see the practice as not separate, from my daily life. And more and more, and as I grow older and experience the mystery, and if you might say the faith to doubt, to not know and realize the present moment is what that's about, is it's interesting. In the face of all of that exhaustion, it's a reward. It's a refuge. In terms of the idea of being careful, I'd like to talk just for a minute in this context about, Roshi talked about in No Beginning, No End. He talked about the concept of Minmitsu no Kafu, which means a number of things. It is to embody your teacher's character, is one thing, and the depth and expression of your teacher. But it also means being very considerate, as well as very careful when you do things. And believe me, I'm not a careful person. I am, I feel like oftentimes I just blunder around in life. But it means having a balance in life circumstances and being careful, not just with, not just careful when you put away the glasses after dinner, when you wash the dishes, but more importantly, being careful with your relationships, with your friends, your family, your coworkers, and connecting. I guess I would say being present with them. And this idea of life and death as a metaphor for the dualism of our world, and the practice as a way to unify, to come to unity, for me has just become real. With that, I guess I would just like to just share a couple of little stories, and then I'm going to close. And I would like to read a poem. Many years ago, and some of you have heard this maybe, I told a story about my grandson, who at the time was about 5 years old. And up in Seattle here, we took him to the REI flagship store. And it has in it a 40-foot high climbing wall. And and my 5-year-old grandson wanted to climb this wall. And so the woman who was belaying him got him all fixed up, and he started up the wall climbing, and he got up about 35 feet into the air, and then he just turned and looked down at me and said, "Pop, I'm done." And then he wouldn't let go, it's like he's hanging onto the wall. He wouldn't let go. It's like that. And she kept saying, "Just let go, Aiden, just let go. You're just let go. You're safer than in your car." And of course he finally let go, and then he was. And then actually in the belay down, you fly. And so now he's 17 years old and he's taller than I am. And, he has at 17, he has a wisdom, I think, that maybe I never had at 17. So this is the thing about the intimacy of practice, is that is intimate. And they're not just memories to me, they're real, they're vivid every day, so anyway, I'd like to just close with a poem by a favorite poet of mine, which I think captures in a certain way the feeling I have about where I am in the practice right now. It's a poem by Wendell Berry. And it's a poem, well, I'll just read it. When my father was an old man, past 80 years, we sat together on the porch in silence in the dark. Finally, he said, "Well, I've had a wonderful life." Adding after a long pause, "and I have had nothing to do with it." We were silent for a while, and then I asked, "Well, do you believe in the informed decision?" He thought some more, and at last said out of the darkness, "Nah." He was right. For when we choose the way by which our only life is lived, we choose and do not know what we have chosen. For this is the heart's choice, not the mind's. To be true to the heart's one choice is the long labor of the mind. He chose, imperfectly as we must, the rule of love, and learned through years of light what darkly he had chosen. His life, his place, our lives. And now comes one he chose, but will not see, Emily Rose, born May 2, 1993.
May the merit of this penetrate into each thing in all places, so that we, with all sentient beings, together realize the Buddha way.
And this is for Roshi.
Thank you, Tensan.
Thank you.
Bye. Thank you, Tensan.
Thank you. Thank you.
Tensan, beautiful. Thank you.
Thank you.